let all those who are dialed in and tuned in to get an idea what I expect you to be able to walk away with. First of all, you should be able to walk away with an understanding that it doesn't actually need to cost more to perform mathematically correct quantitative risk measurement. You should be able to walk away with a workable alternative to the high, medium, low values used widely in IT risk management. Also, I'm going to offer you a more compelling way to motivate relevant, data-driven risk management using some valid measures. And I will show you an example technique that is widely used for monetizing things thought of as intangible. The outline of the course is fairly standard. I'm going to identify the problem, and then I'm going to define the terms, qualitative and quantitative, talk about the problem of ordinals versus cardinals in the use of numbers in risk management, then give you some examples of risk measures as they are currently used and as they could be used, and show how to display a correct and powerful risk threat measure. Talk about costs and benefits, areas of IT risk, and then deal with that issue of the intangibles. Okay, the problem. We're on slide 10. Most IT risk management today makes a distinction in all the training I've taken. It always does this. Makes a distinction between qualitative and quantitative techniques based on what I consider a persistent myth that quantitative risk analysis is far more expensive than qualitative analysis. Risk managers then make a common, huge, and I say unnecessary mathematical error when they aggregate these qualitative risk measurements. Now, the fundamental problem is the ordinal values, and I'll get into definitions, of high, medium, and low to characterize both the probability and the impact of every risk, and then using mathematically invalid aggregate operations on those values, such as averaging or median. In addition, and this is the frustration for me as a practitioner, risk managers usually start with the really valuable numeric values, and then they convert them into the qualitative categories, high, medium, low, and lose the power they had at the start. Slide 11. Now, depending on where you are in your level of experience, if you're an advanced analyst, what this means is you might want to do a self-check. Have I slipped into careless practice with respect to these things I'm about to describe? Or maybe you're the analyst and you hand off your mathematical analysis to an organization, and you might want to know, what are they doing with my numbers? You also might have the opportunity to educate users in the proper use of the analysis you make using valid mathematics. Now, if you're an intermediate or a novice analyst of some sort, this will be your first time to understand the difference between these two concepts and an opportunity to begin to implement correct techniques. Now, I'm going to have to limit myself to this problem because of time. Organizations are adopting what they believe to be a low-cost alternative to quantitative analysis. Now, I want to satisfy the need to lower costs, and I believe I shall, but I'm going to direct you to reconsider, even beyond the recommendations I make, full quantitative analysis. Slide 12. Okay, let's get clear on the terms both as they are popularly used and as they are within the field of mathematics. Qualitative versus quantitative. Qualities are attributes such as severity, color, priority, category, acceptability status, rating. CMMI level is an example of a very specific CMMI level 1, level 2, level 3, 4 through 5. Rank is a quality. Quantities are thought of as measurements, generally in terms of a magnitude, such as percent, US dollars, Deutschmarks, number of defects, defects per size unit, a person's age. So there are some numeric examples, 35%, $1,500,000, etc. 3.1417 pi is a quantity. And in mathematics, however, the things that I listed as qualities, those grades, A, B, C, D, F, hard, soft, priority 1, 2, 3, they are actually a special type of quantity And the scale of those use well-defined. It's a well-defined scale with valid operations on members of that set. Other scales use magnitude, such as quantities, and have different sets of valid operations. So next slide, 13. Ordinals and Cardinals. Yes, I realize I did this little thing with the Major League, but those are the mathematical terms, ordinals and cardinals. Let's start with ordinals. Ordinals, for example, severity, priority, rating, and rank use ordinal scales. Those are just some of the ordinal scales. Ordinals, a series of ordinals, constitute discrete rankings in order. And ordinal scale values exist in either ascending or descending order. They are always ordered. The distance between adjacent values, like between a high and a medium, has no meaning. There is no sense of distance. Low, medium, high is a commonly used ordinal scale. In fact, it's used both for risk impact and risk probability. Low, these are things you can say. Low, for example, is less than medium, but you cannot make a statement as to how much. High is more than medium, but not by a numeric amount. There is a sense of relative magnitude, but not specific beyond this is less, these two are equal, this is more. The next slide, slide 14. Here are some examples of the valid operations you can do on ordinals. You can compare. We got comparison, ranking, and counting. You can compare. Hold on here. I've got to ignore. Low is less than high. Risk 26 deb, for example, and risk number 13 rec. If they're both medium, you can say the risk values are equal. Ranking. The highest priority in a given list, you might say, is critical, or 1. Now, there's an example where some of you who have tried to do numerics on this have found it's a little frustrating because a high priority is 1 and a low priority is a 5. And numerically, 1 is less than 5. Well, it doesn't make any difference in an ordinal because the 1 is just a label. Priority 1 can be said to be a higher priority than a priority 2. Another ranking, the maximum severity of all priority 1 defects was a medium. You could say the minimum grade on a test was a D. The funding mandates a minimum CMMI level 2. Those are valid operations using ranking. Counting, you can count things that are measured by an ordinal. So you might be able to say there are 5 highs and 10 mediums. The counts themselves are cardinal numbers, but you're counting ordinals, highs and mediums. You cannot use median or average, since both median and average require adding and dividing. The median less so, but if you have an even number of elements in a set you're finding the median of, you have to find the average of the 2 middle values. So median is not a valid operation on ordinals. Cardinals, next slide, 15. Cardinal numbers, things like percent, US dollars, number of defects, they use cardinal scales. Cardinals are what we usually think of as numbers. They've got specific magnitudes with numeric distances between values. Integers, for example, the counting numbers, -2, well, counting numbers would be 1, 2, 3, but they are among the integers. They, of course, have a known distance between values, even though when you're dealing with integers, you're not dealing with those intermediate values. But the real numbers are cardinals. -16.457, 0.0. 256 is a real number. I noticed that I had a little typo there. It meant to be the word pi. Pi is a real number. A cardinal scale permits ranking, as do the